All right. We are live and we are back for the Game of the Month Club discussion for the month of August 2023. This month was Fred's pick. So, Fred, I'll hand it over to you. You can go ahead and introduce the game and talk about it a little bit.
Okay. Well, this game is called Viewfinder. It's kind of it's the first game I've played ever since I first played Portal 1 and Portal 2 that kind of felt like a successor to those games. It's using it's a puzzle-based game, but it's first person. You're using, instead of using a portal gun, you're using photos that you find, and then eventually a camera that you can then take pictures with.
Yeah.
And use those pictures. So
it's a pretty fun game. Good pick.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, really cool. Yeah.
So before we dive in, break the game down a little bit, let's go around and just introduce ourselves real quick. Like I said, I'm Kevin, AO, main host here. Go over to my right, we got Steve. Steve, how you doing?
Hey, good. Glad to be here again.
Welcome back. Right below you in the green box, we've got Chris. How are you doing?
Doing good.
Very green, Kermit. Over to your left, we have Jeff joining us. Jeff, how are you doing?
Good.
Good. And then Fred, that we heard from before.
Hello.
So we'll kind of start things off the way we usually do, and we kind of talk about how we got the game and where we're playing it. So let's start this time with Fred, since this was your pick. Tell us, where'd you play it at? How did you play it? Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, I played it on PC. I bought it on Steam.
Okay.
It took me, I don't know what other information we're giving at this moment, but it took me like 11 or 12 hours to finish it, because I almost completely finished it. I completed everything besides one quest one trophy that wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
So
wow,
it was pretty cool.
Dedicated as usual.
Yeah.
I picked
a game I like. Yeah,
that's fair. I picked it up on Steam as well. Kind of adding in. Well, I'll have Jeff, you go second, but Jeff and I we just split it on Steam. Jeff was in town visiting, and we ended up playing it and beating it together the whole time. So tried to do something a little bit different, and was able to save a little bit of money too. And it was actually kind of fun. It was kind of fun playing it with somebody else, taking turns, making the game like a co-op game, even though it was just still one person. But
it was short enough to where we were able to do it pretty quick. So
yeah, it was fun.
Minds on the puzzles, we got through it fast.
So that's where Jeff played it, and myself. What about you, Steve? Where did you play it at?
Yeah, I wanted to play it on Steam Deck, so I bit I swallowed the bitter pill of buying it on Steam, so I could play on Steam Deck. I usually, I'm more of a console gamer, but for this, I actually was going on a trip like right before I bought it, so it just made sense to get on Steam Deck.
It worked pretty good on there?
Game. Yeah, ran great. I mean, it's not a super, I don't think it's a crazy resource intensive game.
No.
But, and I don't think it's like 60 frames, but it seemed to run smoothly.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, for the purposes of this game, it was great.
Yeah. And then what about you, Chris? Where'd you play it at? Christopher, you're on mute if you're talking.
He's AFK.
I played it on PS5.
Oh, okay. A little bit different.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so we got a couple different takes here. I know was this the game I think we got it for a discount, or is that the other game for next month?
No, I mean, this game had just come out. I don't think it was. Did you guys get it for a discount?
I think we paid full price
because it was brand new. I think was what it was. Like about a day, it was 10% off.
Not too bad.
Not much of a discount, but
okay. All right, so let's talk about the overall just impressions of the game going into it. What did you think of the game? What did you think of the game prior to playing it, and then as you started playing it, what did you start to think of? So, what about you, Jeff? Where do you lie with that? Have you even heard of this game before we started playing it?
No, I did not. So here's the big thing with me is I'm not a big puzzle gamer. Like the last puzzle game I think I played was Portal out of the orange box on 360.
Such a good game.
So
that was a long ass time ago, Jeff.
I didn't even like it that much.
That game came out in 2005. You're talking about 18 years. You haven't played a puzzle game. And Jeff's played a lot of games, guys. A lot of games.
A lot of games, but that means there's just a lot of games out there. I mean, yeah, it wasn't my first choice, but tried to go in with an open mind, and I think it turned out pretty favorable.
Okay.
Actually.
Let's go to Chris. What do you think? You're still on mute.
No, I'm not on mute. I like Jeff. I'm not a puzzle game guy, but it was all right. I'd give it an average. It was enjoyable, but I won't play it again.
That's fair. All right,
Well, it is
Steve.
a puzzle game. Once you know the
So,
answers, like
all right,
Yeah.
That's a good point.
this game actually got a lot of pre-release hype. There was some kind of event, like it's some kind of indie gaming event, or maybe it was like one of the summer showcase things that Jeff Keighley put out. I forget what it was, but I listen to a lot of gaming podcasts, as you guys know. And one of those events over the summer, this game was like considered like a standout of that showing. So all the gaming podcasts that I kind of listen to, maybe not all of them, but most of them, zeroed in on this one and be like, wow, this one is cool. It's got, I mean, I think it grabs people really quickly with its unique mechanic.
Mhm.
So going in, I instantly was like, and I like puzzle games. I like, especially games that are like kind of unique like this. So going in, I was like, oh, I'm sure I'm going to like this game a lot.
Yeah. I kind of went in similar to everyone else. I knew it was a puzzle game. I had heard of it, but I didn't think it was a game I would really like. But again, same as Jeff and some of you guys' opinion, also pleasantly surprised. So Fred, what about you? You picked the game. Did you know what this was, or did you just randomly find it?
I think one of you guys suggested had said like, "Oh, I wish we could do this one," and I looked at it and I was like, "Oh, this is exactly the type of game that I like."
Okay.
So I just might as well do it for my month because I didn't really have a game in mind. I thought about maybe like making you guys play Marvel Snap for 10 hours or something, but
I would have been okay with that.
yeah.
Sounds fun to me.
Well, the first part of that game, the first 10 hours of that is pretty fun. It's good onboarding, but anyways, it's probably better to play a game that's just done after 10 hours. Don't give you guys a habit. So, yeah. But no, I didn't know much about it until when you guys mentioned it to me, and then as soon as I saw it, I was like, I immediately knew if people are saying that this is good, if it's getting good reviews, then I will love this game, and I did. It was awesome.
Okay, cool. So as we kind of talked about what the game is, it's a very Portal-like levels where you go through, there's puzzles, and you're either using photos you find in the world or taking photos with a camera, and then you put those photos into the world and they become part of the world. It's a really trippy type of thing, which if you don't play the game and you hear it, you're like, okay, that kind of sounds stupid. But the first time you get a photo and you place it into the world and it becomes part of the backdrop and you can walk through and do stuff, it is pretty trippy and it is really unique. With the art style and the way that it's implemented, it's really cool.
The first time that you get a photo that has a photo inside of it, you just keep immersively making more of them.
Especially because they had like themes within the photos, which was kind of cool. I like that. So let's talk about the gameplay mechanics, the controls of the game. Was this engaging? What did you guys think? Was this an intuitive game to jump into? I would immediately say yes. This game was like so simple to figure out how to do, and there was not like, I know some of the other games like Solar Ash, I complained like I didn't know you could do, what was it, the grapple or something, slow down, and it didn't have the intuitiveness that someone as dumb as I am was able to figure out right away. With this game, it was like I already knew how to play and I didn't even have to see anything. It was that intuitive. I was very impressed by that.
Yeah, it's not a complicated control scheme. I mean, there's a jump, there's a take a picture,
and rewind.
There's turn the picture.
Yeah.
There's change the picture, which picture you're on, and then there's rewind. That's pretty much,
And you can do a lot with just that simple.
Intuitive.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was. I mean, it's not a game that's designed around having a complex control scheme, right? It's not that kind of game.
The one control I wish they had was a run feature, because some of the levels,
the walking speed's a little bit low.
It was so slow to walk across they weren't big areas, but sometimes it's like, I'm trying to look around for something and I would love to have just ran instead of like carefully walk and look at the scenery slow motion.
Sometimes
again.
I think you might be able to cheese puzzles or something if you could like run. You know what I mean?
Jump across. Yeah, I could see that.
And then the areas are small enough that I really didn't feel like bored, but yeah, the walking speed did feel a little bit slow for sure.
True. Anybody else about the controls and the intuitiveness of the game?
I just want to say I think it started like pretty simple, and I thought they added a couple like when I think it starts off, you can't even take a picture, and then they add in the camera, and all of a sudden you're
Yeah.
taking a picture. Like the way they kind of add in a couple extra features, I thought they did really nicely, and it flowed really good.
I agree. Thought it was pretty
Yeah,
cool.
and they continued adding new interesting mechanics with it, like steadily throughout the game. You know, they were kind of different. Like there was the mechanics that you couldn't, some areas couldn't, you know, like wouldn't show up in a picture when you took it, right?
Yeah.
Like they kept adding newer stuff as you went
It
through.
was fun to experiment with that because some of the stuff, like, I didn't realize, like, the bars and stuff in the clouds, the way that we take pictures and they didn't work, or the material that didn't show up. Like, they didn't, unless I missed it, they didn't show you exactly, but they kind of let you play with everything. And you kind of found out just by trial and error because it was so simple to try something. Yeah, it didn't work. Rewind, go back, and just try something different. And it never really got too difficult where I felt like I was spending too much time trying to try things. It always felt like this is just fun and I'm playing around and I'll eventually figure out a solution. And that's kind of what happened. So I thought that was cool.
Are we going to move changing topics to gameplay? We're kind of getting into the gameplay territory.
Yeah, I'm kind of talking about gameplay mechanics, controls, the whole type of it. So we can talk about gameplay here as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a game that's built around this hook, and it has some very unique like ideas for where, you know, ways to apply the hook, and it demands that you kind of figure them out, and it slowly introduces them. And actually, one thing is, I feel like the game was kind of too conservative. Like, I just feel like they could have done more. There's so much more potential in this sort of puzzle mechanic. It wasn't that long of a game. The puzzle, sometimes I would be like twisting my head trying to come up with like really strange solutions. I bet you guys had this too, but like it wasn't the strange solution usually. It was usually like the obvious solution that you just didn't notice.
See, I disagree. I feel like it was a lot of times like I was doing wacky things and I was like, oh, this isn't going to work. And all of a sudden I ended up there and I was like, I don't know if this is supposed to work, but it did. And I got to where I needed to go.
Yeah, there's definitely multiple ways to solve certain puzzles, but I think that if you solved it like the way that they intended, it was usually pretty simple, but there may be some other more complicated ways to solve it. I'm sure the levels had multiple solutions.
Were you
I definitely
saying,
think like half the time, I was gonna say about half the time I feel like if you could take a picture of like just like a straight piece of like ground, you could just use that. Just
yeah, that was a very simple tool that did a lot. Jeff, Chris, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, sometimes I felt like I think some of the puzzles I think I just brute forced with like you said, Fred, with just pictures.
Yeah.
I would like turn a certain way and then like I'd kind of jump and then that kind of worked. And then other times though I would get stuck and I realized if I'm like, okay, let me just take a step back. I don't think this is that. And like none of these puzzles were that complicated, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to be like, you know, I'm not sitting here doing like higher level math or something. Like I just need to step back, you know, look at it, figure it out. And then usually when I did that, I would kind of get on the right path. So I liked that there was the multiple approach angle that you could take there and you weren't, you know, shoehorned into like one solution that you had to find. There was always kind of somewhere outside the box you could get to it. So that was pretty cool.
I really go on, Steve.
I was gonna say there are some like as I played the game, you know, more, I did kind of run into some like I don't know, like limitations. You know, at first when you start playing, you're like, wow, this is like weird. I'm not even sure how this works. You know, when you're like picture in a picture and go, you know, as I played more, I kind of started to see, okay, it's really not that complicated, right? It's just like it's always the picture is always a fixed perspective away from you, right? So it's always going to be kind of the same three-dimensional structure, you know, based on your position, always be the same distance away. And yeah, you can turn it, which is cool. But I was saying, as I was playing this game, I know Jeff mentioned he hadn't played like a puzzle game. I think both Jeff and Fred haven't played puzzle games in a while. But there's actually several. This is almost like a genre, like these first-person puzzle games. There's not a ton of games, but there is one called Superliminal that came out a couple years ago. One called Maquette. That was a PS Plus game, I think, a couple of years ago. And it sort of had similar mechanics as this. And I kept thinking to myself, as cool as this is, there's just so much more that could be done with this. Like if they gave this, you know, some bigger developer came up with this mechanic. Because they could even do things like where your picture could be closer or further away from you. That's actually the mechanic in Superliminal, if you guys played that.
Check it out.
So Like
I feel like they
this
wanted
game is dying for a sequel, and as much as I like it, I still was like, I felt like it was not quite it didn't quite like, it left me wanting more.
I think they did that on purpose though. Like I really feel like the minimalistic like of everything. Like even the scenery was very minimalistic. The type of artwork, everything was simple and easy. And like all the buttons and the objects looked very like Fisher Price, big and simple and easy. So I have a feeling they wanted to make the game simplistic and easy because they could do a lot of simplistic things with it and make the game pretty approachable to a lot of people.
Yeah,
And I
it
think that
certainly
worked.
It made the game definitely, I would say, like, easier, which isn't bad, right? Because
Right.
you're not like barking up the wrong tree. You're like, no, there's nothing in this level other than the camera, this one little platform, and like, maybe a piece of film. Like that's all there is here. You don't like try to overthink it.
Yeah.
Right.
So that did make it a little bit easier. I did feel like the difficulty. I'm wondering what did you guys think about the difficulty? Let's introduce that topic here.
I feel like the rewind system really like it made it made it feel a little easier, I think, than it was. I think it was a fairly easy game, but like in a game like Portal, for example, like when you mess up, you like die or whatever, so you fall, so it's more complicated to get back to where you were. With this, just the last thing you did, you can rewind to retry, and then if you decide that that's not enough, you can rewind further. So I think that like that really made it a lot less frustrating when something didn't go right.
Yeah,
But
the rewind was amazing, and how it marked off like the major events
so
in
cool.
your rewinding. Yeah, it was incredible. Other games should, include that mechanic.
Yeah, well, and once it told me about like the double tapping to make it rewind quicker, it was like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, that was very handy, and I used it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for the rewind, like this game would have been, I think, a lot like worse in my mind, just because it really helped the game like move forward. I never felt like I was getting stuck at one point too long because although the puzzles weren't individually, they were probably like maybe 5 or 10 minutes a piece. You were always even making progress in the puzzle, even with like the rewind spots you got to. And then sometimes you'd have to clear it and go all the way back. But I always felt like I was moving forward, which
well, they definitely
puzzle games.
They took that, Jeff.
Like it's too long.
Moving forward, they definitely made it like small little things where it's like a game like Forager or a game with little updates or something where you always get like the carrot on a stick that you get something, then the next little thing is just a little bit out of reach. And I thought that's what they did really well. Was the puzzles were never so long you got bored and needed to leave. It was you solve a little something and oh well, you know what to do next now, and all of a sudden you know what to do next now. They just kept doing that, and before you know it, the game was over, and in kind of a good way, because it was like, wow, that didn't overstay its welcome, and it felt right, and I never felt like I was bored while doing it. So I thought they did the pacing, I guess is what I'm getting at, is very well done.
Yeah, this might just be my experience. I think everyone's going to have their own take on like the puzzles I got stuck on. I felt like the beginning was like interesting, but it wasn't like really simple puzzles that I was, just kind of going through the motions with. But I was intrigued by the, mechanic. The middle of it, I probably thought was the hardest. And then by the end, I don't know if I just learned the mechanics better or something, but I feel like the last hour, I just kind of like blew right through it. So it felt to me like, I don't know.
The middle I liked. I liked when you had the different photos that were different like themes and different types of art, like the pixelated, and there was like a crayon thing you went into.
Yeah,
like, that was kind of cool. And I remember there was like a castle.
To me, that was still the beginning. Yeah, and that was cool, but they didn't really do anything with it.
I mean, those were all the like collectibles were for the most part.
Yeah, the extra stuff. Speaking of the collectibles, I did a little bit of it with Jeff. I think we found a couple mostly by accident. And they were pretty cool. Like you said, Fred, a lot of those were the extra stuff. I know some of them were part of the regular game, but most of them were. Did you get all the collectibles? I know you kind of hinted at it.
Yeah, I got all the collectibles. I did all the other trophies. The only one I couldn't get was completing a level in under 10 seconds because it seemed to be bugged. Like it was actually really frustrating because actually technically I didn't complete 2 trophies because there's another trophy for getting all of the filters for the camera, and you get a filter for doing that under 10 seconds. So that was very frustrating, but ultimately at that point, I put a lot of hours into it, and whatever, it's fine. It's just frustrating.
Okay.
My favorite was the watermelon filter, though. It made it so hard to tell what things were, but it was weird. I liked it.
I stumbled into some collectibles like the rubber duckies and stuff. Was there like some kind of one thing I wish with the collectibles is that they were more obvious, because I definitely passed some, just not realizing that like I saw them. You know what I mean? It's not like there was a big shining object. They're like, oh, I found this collectible. You could have actually like made it to the part that you were supposed to get this secret item, right? And then just been like, I just missed it because I just wasn't looking for this little thing.
So basically, I feel like it did a good job of like giving you one that was like very obvious for the most part, and then once you knew what something looked like, you could look for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you have to do, especially since about probably at least a third of them, maybe half of them, were like legit like hidden. So you had to be thinking about like, oh, probably they're hidden in the weirdest of the pictures. Is a lot what them were. That's where a lot of them were hidden.
Yeah.
So pivoting a little bit, let's talk about the narrative, the storyline. What did you guys think of that? Did it stand out to you? I know, Steve, you usually get really involved with a lot of the story in these random games.
I tried with this one, guys. I tried hard, and
it meant nothing to me again.
Like one of the things, like
Really?
It was a good like existing story. Like, okay, I'm some type of scientist lady or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very vague, which I know it's like an artistic choice, but
I don't know. I don't think it's vague. It's very much not vague at all.
Oh, it was so vague. Oh, okay.
Listen to all the photographs.
We also weren't listening. So.
Yeah, okay. I'll give you that because I didn't listen to anything.
Yeah. So the story is that like climate change has caused the Earth to become almost uninhabitable. It's in bad shape, and they realize that she and the person you're playing and her partner realized that like there's this I guess it's like alternate reality, AR or whatever, it's some sort of area that you can enter into in a computer, and some scientists from 100 years ago or whatever were doing climate research, and you're having to like go through what is basically their like filing cabinet, but it's like a digital world, and you're trying to find the machine they supposedly created that can reverse climate change. And then, in the end, you discover that it doesn't work. But
well, I missed all of that.
Yeah.
I feel like the audio logs and stuff, I listened to a handful of the stuff they were saying, and it was kind of cool to kind of lead you on, but it didn't grab me. I was just excited to grab the next photo and start playing with it.
Yeah.
I think
sorry,
go ahead, Fred.
I was gonna say, and also there's like a lot of cool like interpersonal stuff happening between there's 4 scientists working, and like a lot of it has to do with like the hubris of the lead person, and she kind of alienates the other people, and I don't know. And Kat talks to you a lot about all that stuff too. Kat's a cool character.
The cat was very interesting, but it was cute. I was like, it would scare me because it just pop up sometimes, and I was like, oh, I didn't see you there.
Sneaky.
When I play games, a lot of times I actually ignore the story, but for game club purposes, I try to pay attention because I feel like it's an important element of the game that worth reviewing, right? So I tried with this game to pay attention to the story, and I guess it's a testament to how much I like the puzzle solving that I just didn't have the patience. I see the read thing, I was like, no, I just want to solve this puzzle. Like I just want to figure this out.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think, I'm impressed that Fred figured all that out, because just like anecdotally reading like a note or two throughout the game,
That's how I felt with you in Planet Alana, when you had like a whole backstory and you knew every character and who she was in love with the last 10 years.
I feel like because the story in Planet of Lana was more in the gameplay experience, it was like
forefront.
It was harder to miss. This is like you could completely disregard the story by just not spending the time to look at it and not talk to the cat.
I'm just always an audio log completionist in any game with audio logs. Like
it depends on the game for me.
Well, this game, and it's interesting. I mean, this execution of the story, and admittedly, I didn't give it its fair shake on that part. But there's the part in the game where like the game bugs out and you go to the real world for a second.
Oh, that was cool.
Yeah.
Remember that.
And I was like, wow, this is like, that kind of gave me Portal 2 vibes, right? Of like, because Portal 2 is not only, that's kind of, to me, that's like the benchmark puzzle game that all other puzzle games have yet to reach, even 12 years later now.
The vibes I got, I kept getting Assassin's Creed vibes with the Animus. Like that's what I kept thinking of.
Yeah, right, definitely.
Like obviously
but-
not the type of game, but like you get put into a world and then you're pulled back into the
Sure,
real
yeah.
world. And
But
I
you
just
never
kept
go
feeling
back.
that.
You know, you never really go back to like that was their only experience like that throughout the game. Maybe at the very end of the game. But
Yeah.
other than that,
Yeah,
like
the
they didn't
game
really
is
like
how you
expand
get
on
out
that
of
at all.
something, which is crazy. I don't know how. I hope they do a sequel because I hope they explain how they got the like physical dirt and plant out of the fake world.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So the I just had my notes. I clicked on the wrong screen. Moving over to games graphics, audio design. What do we think about that? Who wants to start us off there?
I mean, sir, looks nice. It's not the best looking game I've ever seen. It doesn't need to be. It's really not the purpose of the game. If it looked any better or worse, I probably wouldn't have even noticed. You know.
Yeah.
Um,
It's aesthetic
it rained
choice
for you.
for the most part too.
Yeah.
Like, they're
Yeah, I
going
mean,
I'd say it was just fine.
Just fine. I liked it. I thought it.
I really
I-
liked it.
I liked the colorful, very pretty, simple looking aesthetic of it all. The graphics looked fine. It was nice because it wasn't needing a super powerful computer to play it, so you could play this thing on a potato and still get a lot of enjoyment out of it. I mean, played on
Didn't
Steam Deck,
see-
PS5, PC. It's pretty good to. Is this on Switch?
I don't know.
That's one thing I don't know. Someone look that
didn't
up while we're talking
pause
about this.
Take in the atmosphere. Let's just say that much.
What?
You didn't see me pausing to take in the atmosphere. Let's just say that much.
I mean, but it was still nice to be in the world. I wasn't mad at it. It wasn't like this was some ugly place I couldn't just wait to be out of. Like, there was definitely places when I was playing, when I had the controller, Jeff, I was looking around at the art in the wall and just because I was trying to kind of look for secrets, find the crayon drawings that I could go into because it was fun to play with a little bit. So I actually thought the art style was a huge bonus for me. The audio
agree.
design was cool as well. I thought that having the voices and the phone and the way they interacted with you for a lot of story elements, which I did kind of ignore, but it was still cool to kind of have like that communication when like the phone would ring and that lady would talk to you and stuff. So
When sometimes you wouldn't be able to catch her, and it'd be a voicemail.
yeah.
That was frustrated me. I was like, is it gonna be? Would it be different if
Yeah, I wondered that
like,
too. Like, oh, I missed you again. I'm like, oh, dang. And I was always late because I feel like I always took forever on puzzles and just was playing around with the pictures.
I remember I was watching Kevin play, and I'm like, Kevin, are you going to answer that phone? It's been ringing for like 5 minutes. He's like, I thought it was in the other room. He's like, I didn't know it was in the game.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's right in front of your face.
Oh no!
It was a
But
cool
if it was-
setting thing.
if it was okay, so if the phone is ringing in real life, Kevin ignores it. If it's ringing
Yeah.
in the game, he's like, okay, I'll be right there to pick it up.
Yeah, of course. There we go.
Makes sense.
So the game
It's like
itself,
for death in the game.
yeah,
so.
exactly. The game itself, we kind of talked about, was pretty short, and I think most of us finished it probably under 5 hours. I'd say. I think we did it in about 4-ish, Jeff. I think that's right where we did.
Yeah, I was around there too. It felt even faster than that to me, and I think that's because I enjoyed it. Right?
Yeah, I think exactly like the carrot on a stick. Like it never felt tedious, like you were doing a job. It was just like a quick, you keep doing things. Before you know it, the game's about done.
I think it could have used maybe one more chapter.
Yeah, I think so
it felt
too.
tedious to me though.
Really?
I would have taken the game twice as long.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just with my problems with puzzle games. It wasn't particularly hard
Yeah.
at all, and none of them really seemed challenging. So it sort of seems like you're just going through the motions to get to the end of the game. None of the levels really seemed like
Okay,
to
you
make
didn't.
me think.
You
They're all
never
pretty
thought on any of
straightforward.
the levels, Chris.
He just knew it right
No,
away.
they're
Not
all
even the
pretty
last
simple.
level. There's like some crazy stuff in that last level.
You know,
No, it only took me 3 tries
I think it took me 3 tries as well.
because I just copied the straight lines and I used them later on
Yep.
in the more complicated levels.
Yeah,
The only one that messed me up was the watermelon level, but that was an optional level, and that's only because I YouTubed how to do it because I just sort of wanted to be done at the game at that point because I knew it was the last level.
Well, you're smarter than us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were definitely puzzles that I felt like were pretty simple, you know, and I was kind of like, yeah, okay, that's interesting, but like, you know, I just kind of came up with it really quick and didn't feel like it gave me a whole lot of enjoyment for very long, right? But there definitely were puzzles where I was like, wow, that was interesting. That was a cool little,
Yeah.
thing that they came up with there. So the balance of the two to me was satisfying. Like not all of them were cakewalks to me. Not all of them were. There was one or two that I maybe got stuck on. I don't think I had to look up a solution the whole game, which is like with these games I try hard not to look up solutions. That kind of ruins the game for you.
Yeah.
I think I did all the optional puzzles. Those were a little bit tougher, I thought, than the main stuff.
Did you?
Yeah.
You said the optional puzzle. I had someone was gonna say. I don't remember what it
Watermelon.
was. Watermelon. Yeah, I know. That's all I'm thinking about. That sounds good. Anyways, what about the like replayability? What do you guys think of that? Would anybody actually replay this ever again?
Big fat 0.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the problem with these puzzle
Yeah.
games. That's just a kind of feature of the
I
genre.
mean, technically, you could do it and try different things. I mean,
I
there's
might try like speed running it again. Like if I felt like doing that, like I think I could like try to beat it really fast. That could be fun.
go back at those last trophies.
It's a fun world, and like it would be interesting to also just to try to. I would say I would consider in a few years coming back to this game for sure.
If they had
That was my
DLC,
plan.
Oh, yeah, what- I hope they
Wait
just
at
come
least,
up
like,
with another
5
game,
years.
yeah, or DLC. Yeah.
Wait
Well-
5-6 years, you'll be able to replay it, no problem.
That's
Yeah,
true.
if
Yeah,
you
I'm
forget
not
the
gonna
puzzles,
recall.
you can replay it. But I had an instance where I was played on Steam Deck and a little bit on my PC, and I was traveling, I think. So my cloud save didn't carry over
Ooh.
to my Steam Deck when I was on the plane, and I was like, lost probably like it probably was like an hour and a half into the game or something like that.
Half the game.
But honestly, this is the kind of game having a save file barely matters because
Yeah.
if you know the solution, you can do it in seconds.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
true.
That's
Like
true.
Fred, for speedrunning this game, you probably could beat it in like 15-20 minutes if you're speedrunning. If you know the
I think-
optimal
I
solution.
think
And
that
just
there
kinda
are
do it.
people who've beaten it in about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that's the
think
problem with replayability. There's very,
sure.
very little, but that's kind of puzzle games tend to not have much replayability. Even Portal
Yeah.
2 is hard for me to go back to.
Not repeatable either, it's kind of similar.
Yeah.
Right. So for the price we all paid, I think it was roughly $25 US. I think
Yeah, I think it was like 22 with
the little discount. So from 20 to 25, we'll say. Do you think
Yeah.
it was worth the price with what we got out of it?
for sure.
I would say so. I actually thought it was worth $25. It was pretty fun. Would I
I
have
always
liked it to be
think-
cheaper? Of course, but I wasn't mad for what we paid.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
for
I really
4
like it,
hours, I mean, it's ultimately up to you guys for how much you value, everyone's.
I play like a movie, like right. So a movie's about $10. So
Yeah.
like in 4 hours. So like, if a game is 4 hours and I like it, then it was worth it at $20. So
I feel like it was like an independent studio, I think, made this. So it's
Yeah.
nice to support the smaller people that, aren't making the big bucks just in general.
If I paid full price, I think I might have been a little upset. I could see maybe like 20 max, but I think this is normally 30.
Okay.
So
no,
Maybe
5.
maybe a
Yeah, I
little
thought it
over
was-
much, but not by far.
I
At least
paid
I kept it,
26.
so I'm happy.
To me, this is a little bit of a tough sell on the. It's a little bit short and thin
bit short.
for the cost. The game to me is a little underbaked, like underdeveloped. They could have done a lot more with it. But it's not egregious. So
Okay.
I'm a little on the fence with the value here for what you get.
Chris, what did you say? How much did you pay?
26.
And what do you think about that?
I thought it was too much for it.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Not enough content.
Yeah.
It is interesting that they didn't do a lot of extra stuff. I know, Steve, you were saying they could have played with it more, and they had a lot of good tools to do other stuff, even more optional things, but it did feel like that was lacking a little bit. I wonder if they did do DLC, if it would maybe be free. That way I think would help boost the value of the game, like adding new worlds or levels or like a prologue or something that was just
What they should have done
additional.
for lengthening the game, and I've run into this with a few puzzle games. I really enjoy puzzle games, so I feel like I have a lot of experience playing them. There was one game that came out called oh my god, what's the name? It's on Switch, and you could change the rules of the world. I'm totally blanking on the name, but this is a classic example of
Steve forgetting a game.
no,
Mhm.
I'll think of it in a second. But most games have like a loop to them, right? Think about AAA games are like a classic example of this, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a AAA game only. But think of a game like, let's say, Doom, like the new Doom that they put out. That's an action game, right? Straight up first-person shooter action game. But you're not just constantly shooting the whole time, right? There's other things like between every main action sequence, there's a part where you explore, you can find puzzles, there's a little bit of a story element before the next main boss. And the problem with a lot of these puzzle games that are purely puzzle games is they don't have that loop. It's just like it's a puzzle book. You solve the puzzle on one book, you turn the page, and there's a puzzle on another side of on the other page.
Yeah.
And
But
you're
I think
just
that's like what they like. People who like puzzles like that. They
Yeah,
like the puzzle.
it almost felt like an app, or like a phone app, where it was very simplistic to the point, but in a good way, because I feel like this is like a snack. It's not like a huge thing. It's not a huge commitment. And I think it's like doing Sudoku puzzles in a book. It's like you do one, you just want to do the same thing again. Why do you need other stuff?
And the hub-based design of the game, where you go to the hub and you go to like portal off to the challenges, to me that's a little bit of like a cop-out. Like to me the ideal game is going to have a world that you're in that has an interesting interesting setting with an interesting story, and you're going to go on an adventure through the world, and puzzles are going to be incorporated into that world, like Portal 2 is a great
So
example.
you like, oh god, so like you like puzzle games, Steve? Like,
yeah,
I feel like most puzzle games are exactly the same. I feel like they're all like this. Like I played not many. I played like the Pedestrian. It was a pretty popular-ish puzzle game, and it was exactly like this too. It was just like you do the puzzle. There's like a short, tiny little travel thing between the puzzles, and then you do a puzzle again.
So not necessarily. Baba Is You is the name of the game I was thinking of.
Okay, I've heard of that.
So there are a lot of puzzle games like that, but to me, that's like their cash. The development costs had to be kept down, and they didn't have the money.
I think that is a big part
or
of it.
vision to develop it. Because the other games I was mentioning, Maquette and Superliminal, actually have those experiences in them. They're in a contiguous world. They have interesting things that happen while you're in the world. It's not just like a hub-based, puzzle system.
I think you hit it on the head though with the development costs. I don't think this had a lot of money towards it. Yeah. Now, if they, it sounds like this game's been pretty popular. So I'd imagine if it sells well and they make good money on it, maybe a sequel would be something that they would do, and they could add on to what they've already started because they have a good base. I just think we need more stuff.
Yeah, and this
is a good story too.
They're definitely gonna make a sequel for this. There's a lot of potential in a sequel, and I could rake it myself. Basically, I know the mechanic they're gonna do is they're gonna change the perspective.
Heard it here first, guys. Steve's making the sequel.
The sequel to this game will be a game where they include changing the perspective of the image. So you could put the image far away from you, or you could put it close up. If you put it, super far away, you could make like a massive like structure, right? Or if you put it close up, you make something tiny. Next game is
all watermelon filter, the whole thing.
I hope so. But yeah, like think about how they built from Portal 1 to Portal 2. Like Portal 1 was really just like similar to this game in the sense that like it was like
I agree 100%.
Yeah, like a proof of concept. So like there's a lot of potential for this to be a proof of concept for a deeper game for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Because Portal 2 definitely had like lore behind it. Now we've got characters and people and memes, and it was a whole thing. So yeah, I'd be interested to see if we get a sequel out of this because it would be pretty fun. All right, so what are our final thoughts about this game? And then our final scores. Let's start with Chris. We'll start with you. What are your overall thoughts? Did you enjoy this? Was it worth your time? Would you recommend this to a friend? And what's your score?
I wouldn't recommend it to a friend if you don't like puzzle games.
It's fair.
But if you don't like the friend,
I'd recommend it to Kevin if he hasn't played it. We talked about this last time. I think I'm gonna change my scoring method. I'm gonna change my scoring method to if I like the game going forward, and I would probably just give it like a 7. I mean, I think it was intriguing, like the ideas.
I thought
but like
you were gonna say like a 4. You made it so this game was awful. 7 is pretty good.
7 is like a good game in my out of 10.
Okay, then maybe I'll do like a 6 then, because like I felt like I was just walking through the steps. I didn't really feel.
Did you have fun doing the steps though?
There's a couple like the color changing one. When you had to like do some stuff in order. Some of the speed ones were a little more enjoyable, but ultimately there was more. I think half the missions I sort of just like, meh, it was all right. So yeah, I'd say like 6 to 7. Like it wasn't a bad game. It's just not a game I like. That's why it's a low score.
But yeah, you should I mean, you should obviously make the score based on your own opinion, not what you think other people's opinion would be. If you don't like the game, to me that should be a 5 or lower. I don't know, my opinion. If you really don't like it, 5 or
is
lower.
like
You got to
5 is
use
like
Steve's opinion scale, Chris. Come
But
on.
hey, I mean, you don't have to use
fun.
my scale, but if you're saying a game you don't like is a 7, then what the hell is 1 through
Well,
6 for?
I know a
Just
lot of people
different
wanna
degrees of hatred.
Full grades, right? Where 7D, like a 7 out of
Games that have problems.
like it's an
Yeah,
average.
games that have like there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, you know.
What did you
Not really
give
my
the
game.
last game, Chris? What did you give Solar Ash?
Also a 7, I think.
Okay. I thought this was
Yeah.
I thought this was way more fun than Solar Ash. I thought Solar Ash was an
Yeah.
okay game. I actually I think I'd probably give this like an 8.5. Like I thought this was pretty fun.
Well, 8 or 9, Kevin.
I do 8.5. It's the Kevin scale. If he does the Chris scale, I'll do
Dude.
Kevin scale. I will say I gave an 8.5. I would definitely recommend this to your friend. I have recommended this to some friends. I definitely think a sequel would be a lot of fun. I know Jeff and I kind of played this together, but I think if there was a sequel, I think playing this like on the Steam Deck would be a lot of fun. So like hearing from you, Steve, I think that would be this is like an easy game because I can do little things at a time. I could play this in bed every couple nights, just doing a couple puzzles here and there.
It's a great Steam Deck game, but once you've played it, there's zero replayability here.
Well, I'm not talking about playing the same one. I'm talking about there's a sequel or DLC or something. Fred, you're cutting out. I see your mouth moving, but I don't hear you.
Sorry. Yeah, I was gonna say I never replay games anyway, so it's like it's replayability to me like is whatever. But
Yeah.
Fred gets his money's worth out of these games first time through.
Oh yeah,
is
he
a
definitely
part of that
does.
for
Fred
sure.
gets his money.
and that's true too. I'm sure that also clouds it a little bit, right? Because I really bite into it. Like I get, yeah. I mean, when it's like when I spent like 11 hours, 12 hours on it, clearly it was worth my money.
True.
So.
All right, what is your score then, Fred? We'll go to you.
So like Portal or Portal 2 are 10s to me. This is a game I really, really like that is in a similar vein. So I think it's, I was going to say 9.5, but I'm going to say 9 because someone's going to complain if I say 9.5. So
I allow the halves. You can do it.
No,
okay, well,
take her 9 or 10.
Shut up, Steve.
It's definitely not 10. That's the take, but it's higher. It's like a super high 9. How about that? There you go. I'll do like the needle drop score, strong 9.
There you go. I think that the shortness of it actually helped my score a lot because I feel like games that are so overwhelming and long, I get frustrated with, and I definitely fall off of it. I know
there's so many games out there.
Yeah, and that is another issue. If I'm a gamer who plays a lot of games, like the shortness of this game I can appreciate. But if I'm, a random guy who has like 4 games and I just bought this and I might think that this was too short. But for me, the shortness I didn't mind. I maybe a little bit longer, but it was still made me pretty happy.
Shortness is fine, but you got to be careful with the price then.
Yeah, that is a tough one.
It depends on your philosophy because I'll see people put, they'll take a 50-hour game, let's say. They put 30 hours into it and they're like, I got bored, so I just dropped it, and that's a bad score because I got bored. Well, I'm like, well, you put 30 hours into it and, maybe you enjoyed it a lot for a portion of that. That's, versus this game, which is like 4 hours. I'm like, well, at least the other game, sure, I didn't finish it, but I got 30 hours of enjoyment out of it, right? And that's my philosophy for a game. If I don't want to finish a game, I don't feel like I have some kind of like guilt that I didn't finish it. I know some people have that.
Depends on the game for me like that. Some games I feel like, yeah, well, I feel like I need to.
It's like, I don't know.
All right, I'll take my turn, and I think I've pretty much said everything, but I love the mechanic. I love where they took the mechanic, and I really enjoyed this game pretty much from the start to the finish. But it's just the whole time I was there, I was like, this game could be great. Even me, just that has never made a game in his life, could come up with ways to make this. I feel like improve this game. And to me, that fundamentally it keeps it from that 9 tier. Like, this is not a 9 out of 10 game because it's just the value isn't there. Obviously, it's not replayability, but it's just too short and simple, really. and missing a lot of the things that I look for to kind of really make me enjoy one of these types of games. So to me, this is an 8 out of 10 game, which is still a great game.
Okay. And then Jeff, that leads you.
So I was pretty bummed when we picked this game because I was dreading it and having to
Oh.
play it.
Dread. Well, hey, next month we get Dread. So
That was a segue. Yeah, it was a little sneak peek there. Went to.
well,
I know
let me just say
sometimes
for next month's game, I'm going to be Resident Evil 4ing it. So we can make
My God. Okay, go ahead, Jeff. Pro mute Steve.
lost my train of thought there. So yeah, I played it a lot with Kevin. Because we only had like a few days, Kevin. So if you play a game a ton, sometimes you get burnt out on it. With all that said, I guess I like this game more than I thought. It went really well. I never felt like I got too stuck. I know kind of like what you were saying, Kevin, knowing how short it was. When I got to chapter 2, I'm like, oh, only a few more left. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't like, oh, I got 7,000 more chapters of puzzles left. Like, it kind of just moved along quickly. So yeah, I think for me, I'd probably give it a solid 8.1437.
Good. I was thinking that. Yeah. That sounds like a Jeff score.
For sure.
So, okay. I think we all mostly enjoyed it. I think Chris enjoyed it, but his score says he does, but his voice doesn't
well,
sound like it.
He's probably just a little bit more curmudgeonly than we are. That's
Yeah.
fine.
So next month is, I don't remember whose pick is it. Is it Chris? Is that your pick next month?
Yeah.
Okay, and we kind of talked about it a little bit, and he picked the game Dredge. So we'll be talking about that for our September game. For September game for September Dredge. Yeah, so we had a pretty good discussion on this. If you're watching this and you are interested in trying Viewfinder, you should go get it because it's pretty fun. I actually think this is probably one of my favorite games we played so far for the last at least 4 or 5 months. It's way better than Planet of Lana. So if you see that game, just throw Lana out the window because that game is boring.
That's the
boring. But all right, thank you, everyone.
This is the best one we've had in since we rebooted the Game Club. This is the best one we've had.
I agree. All right, well, thank you all. Hopefully Ryan will be able to join us for the next one or so. He said he had to step out for a bit. He did play this. I was trying to get his score, but he didn't respond. So hopefully we'll catch up. Maybe just throw it out in the next video. All right, thank you everyone for listening and watching. We'll see you next month. Bye.